Hello, this is Moonstorm, and today we will be going over some general ship breakdown ships. We'll go over the mackerel, as it is the starting ships you will be breaking down. Uh, this video will help you not only break down that ship, but all other ships, and we'll also go over some tutorials on what upgrades you should probably start with. So let's go ahead and break down the ship. Going through the tutorial, it'll give you movement controls. That's fine. Um, it tells you that, oh man, now I can't find it because I never use it. But to brake, I find the best way to brake is actually to hit both your rotate keys at the same time, and that way it will stop all motions in any direction. So you get flung off or you're get going too fast in a particular direction and don't know how to counter it, just hit both of those at the same time, and it will get you going. Also, especially early on when your thrusters aren't the best, a good way to get you going is to actually grab onto something and reel yourself into it, and that can get you across very fast. The key speed you got to worry about is 10 meters a second. Anything under that, and you'll just slam into something, and it will kind of just jostle you. But if you go anything, you'll see on the speed indicator right above the thrusters, left, it will turn red, and the faster you're going, the more damage you'll take. Okay. Maybe it's not exact 10 meters a second, but let's get it going to 11. Oh, in free play does it not? Okay, yeah. In free play, it doesn't seem to be an issue, but in any other part of the game, slamming above 10 meters a second will hurt you. So if you get going and you just slam, you can stop. The first level of brakes can only slow you down so fast, so always slam harder sooner than you think, and that way you won't ever have an issue of slowing down. You can always just speed up a little bit again, or get right going under 10 meters to fix it, and then flop it. So, yeah. Alright, so we want to tear down this mackerel really fast. The question being is, you only got 15 minutes to do it in a single session, and it's more important to get the third ranking of tearing down a ship in the day than it is to get 100% of the ship in 2, because the amount of money you'll make or lose for rent and just the day progressing of the charges, that you might not be able to make up the cost if you can't. So what's the important things to get off the ship, and what can you skip to save you some time so you can get it all done in one shift? These mackerels are pretty simple ships, especially the ones without too much of the side armor, but some of them will come with a front grill plate. That's really the only extra armor, or these side panels, that you really have to take off, because all this goes in the processor anyway. So cutting it off and throwing it in there, and then later taking the internals and throwing it in there, it's just wasting time. They all go in there, so you don't even have to bother taking that. Starting off, give it a good once over. Stuff that's bridgeable really fast, you want to take off. any antennas, external fuel tanks, especially on those front grill mackerels. They'll usually put a fuel tank in like the lower part of it, and you want to grab that and throw it down before you try to go and slice off that front grill. Otherwise, if you accidentally hit that, it will damage it and probably breach the ship. So if it's still pressurized, it can get bad fast. But take those off. Take the front grill off. Take any antennas that are on. While you're going towards the ship, you can scan it real quick and see if it's pressurized. If it's already fully pressurized when you're giving your ship a quick overview, you can also quickly burn off the thrusters. We're pressurized here, so we don't want to quite do that right now. And then you'll get away from them very soon, but when you're level 1 to 3, you'll get the mackerels that just have the burnable contacts connecting them to the outside of the ship, and those ones you can go ahead and burn off and push towards the grill. I think that early you won't have tethers, so you'll also have to shove the thrusters there. Later on, you'll get tethers, and it's just best to cut it apart, cut them both apart, and then just immediately tether them. You don't want to really worry about using tethers or trying to save on tethers. They're cheap enough, and if they save you the time to save you a day, they're gonna more than make up for the cost of it. So alright. This one, however, is pressurized, so you'd go, the next thing you'd want to go do is depressurize the ship. Sometimes you can save yourself on oxygen by spending some time in pressurized areas, but a lot of the times, it's just best. You're gonna have to go buy tethers anyway. Just pick up some oxygen there, and then once we got enough oxygen upgrades, we won't have to buy a tank maybe to even worry about it. So you'll just have to eat the cost until that's upgraded. Yeah. So the only part of this ship that's pressurized is the main cabin. So just quickly hit that there. Had this been filled, you can't really. It's annoying that you can't section them off. It's best to just go through and do it bit by bit. What I would do if this was still pressurized is keep it closed. Cut off some of these bottom panels here. Toss everything down. That would get loose and get in the way, maybe blow up, especially like fuel or canisters. And then another trick here is once that was, because we want to keep as much of the weight together as we can while depressurizing. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of moving around of the whole ship. If your ship's light enough and you depressurize, it can actually throw it outside the arena or into one of the furnaces without realizing it. So yeah, you want to try to be the ship as heavy as possible when you have to fully depressurize it, and we'll have to also do it with that one. But we got lucky here. So what's left are the inner walls, and I find you'll find a lot of situations like this in the mackerels where you'll get it and it will be pressurized in the center, but even if you scan, you can see there's no filters to depressurize the walled chambers. They're separate. Fine. You can either do the bottom and hold on to this thing, hold on to the wall, Z key, and that kind of plants you. Also, if you're floating in air and out of thrusters, you can hold Z key to grab onto something, slow you down. Hopefully something solid and not floating around. Also, if you're out of fuel, you can use it to kind of move yourself around and move around the ship. uh, so you can get yourself out, and then when you're out of the ship, you can use the tether pull to drift you to maybe some extra fuel pickups that are nearby, or if you have to slowly throw yourself uh, at the hab and purchase some thrusters there. But you got plenty of warning when your fuel's low, so that's fine. But what to do? Yeah, let's go back. Okay. So your mackerel's depressurized except for the sidewalls. What do we do about it? I find that the easiest way is to go ahead. Let's get this disconnected. This is get yourself out of the ship, and we'll go ahead and get this back thruster puck off. This is why when it's depressurized, it's nice to get it off first. You don't have to go out and do it again. You could blow it up with there, but sometimes you'll damage the thruster component, and you just risk losing the money from that, because thrusters, even class 1s, are worth a decent amount of money. And then once it's out of there, it's just easy to get back in. Just go through the thruster puck. And then I find it easy to just burn the connector points for the back thruster housing off. Now this style, just pulling off this tank will de-fuel the lines. For the ones that are actually back in the, okay, so it has those two. What will happen sometimes is stuff will hit and cause some leaks back there. So what we want to do is help push it back a little bit, and there it goes, throwing us out. But these are a little safer sometimes, but the ones that are also connected all the way back here won't move out with it. So what we want to do is go and cut the pull the handles on them so they shut off. That way, if anything banged around in there and it's starting to cause a gas leak, we want to catch it before it sparks out and yeah, blows up the ship. But other than that, with any the other styles ships, the data collector ones with the wiring, or this will just float on back with the air, and yeah, we'll get it, and then once it's empty, all of this stuff is going to go into the processor, so we don't have to worry about it. Get it nice and forward. If you get too in line with it, you'll send it in there. One tether is fine, but you don't really have to save on tethers. Some people get confused on, like, I'll push things and they move, and sometimes I grab things and push them and they move me. How do I know when that's the case? Well, that red bar, when you're grabbing onto something or looking at something, you'll see that it turns a color. So this thruster's green at 823 kilograms. That means, you applying force to it while hold on to it. The mass manipulator of it is heavier than the weight of the object, so throwing it will push it. But if you grab something, like these are permanent objects, the walls, or something that's red, if you go and you hit the thruster, it will push you back, and then you gotta slam on your brakes because you're probably going either out into space, or at worst, bad's the wall, but if you slam on your brakes or hit it, or maybe you weren't going that fast, you'll be fine, or it can cause damage to you too. But if you get too close into the gravity well of the processor's furnace, it can pull you in, and then when you're drifting in, you can try to grab onto something and try to reel yourself out. But after a certain point, it's too late. It's too strong. It's gonna pull you in, and you're gonna have to get a new body, and that will just cost you money. So yeah, the mackerels. They're fun ships. So let's go ahead and start a new one. I think that's the only major thing of a mackerel you gotta worry about. Um, when you can, you want to use the line cutter tool of these to quickly cut as many of the connection points as you can, being careful to aim plenty down. And then if you're just a little bit worried about your aim, you can go ahead and burn off the two connector points, and then just slowly push the walls out of the way. Here we're still connected. Looking at an object, it should be a lot lighter once it's disconnected, so looking at that when you're not sure if the ship's disconnected. Also, you don't have to grab onto an object to push it. Just being close enough to it and pressing the push key of yours is enough to go ahead. And sometimes it's good just to get it. And then once you're all disconnected, you can just go ahead and quickly tether everything back to the walls. Of course, on this side, while explaining that, I forgot to go ahead and de-thruster any ship, because those goes on the barges. And then once they're all disconnected, throw them into each side. Airlocks, if you want, you can just cut them. But usually if you do it fast enough, you can get them too. So if you're not worried about getting 100% of the ship, you don't have to worry about that. You can just cut it in half. But you know what? If you just aim high enough, the inline, the solid line's right where your lasers will spawn and affect objects. It might have a little overlap, so just aim high enough to hit it off. Or you can also burn the connectors. Usually save my pinpoint for around those connectors. And yeah. So yeah, you can go ahead, push it a little way. That way you get clear to the ship and pull everything out of it just fine. And you can connect them together like it shows. You can. That does work, but when they're close enough, they'll usually fling themselves far enough to not get in the way. And then here, the barge, you can oh man, we threw the control panel for the door out through that processor, which is money. They're quite expensive for how big they are, but when both items are going to go in the barge, we don't have to separate them. We can just go ahead and toss it. So yeah, those are the tips that I have for you in Space Engineers. Next video we'll be going to will be a demonstration of single shift teardown of a mackerel. And the mackerels, even at their higher hazard levels, because of the simplicity of the ship, all of them can still be done in one shift. Once you get a couple more of the unlocks, like heavier, stronger tethers, and will help you, but even after getting the first tether upgrade and stuff like that, will really help you tear down a mackerel. So yeah, don't forget that these top barges, if any of them have the where they got cargo hatches, those go on the barge. And you can get the glass out of there, but it's usually not worth the time it is to get it off too. Don't forget you can hit Y and um, undo any tethers that messed you up. So usually just keep it all in one piece, send it in the processor for the nanocarbon, and you'll be good. So unless you're trying to squeeze out just a little bit more money and you've got the time, you can carefully cut out the glass, just square it out, and it will break apart into 4 pieces. Recommending the upgrades. When it comes to upgrading your equipment, very first one you do want to get when you can is the tethers. Only 5 tokens, so even if you don't get a whole mackerel, as soon as you hit rank 4, you want to buy it, and then yeah, the rate at which it unlocks them, you can get most upgrades, but the work suit upgrades are kind of lowest priority. What's really handy is your upgrades to your helmet. This is where your oxygen capacity and a rebreather upgrade uh, is it. Once you get like a couple of them unlocked, you might be able to go the whole shift if you find one oxygen thing to top you off, or buy it, and then by the time you upgrade these two, it will last you your whole shift. You won't have to worry about buying more oxygen tanks. But if you spend a little time in a pressurized environment, especially with the rebreather, it will refill your O2 tank internally too. So uh, at the start of your shift, at the lower ranks, if you spend some time loosening uh, loosening anything that's bolted down, not bolted down, so it free floats in there, um, or something like that, you can also get away without having to buy oxygen. Uh, Other than that, the most important upgrades, these are cheap. You'll be able to buy them to see different components in your ship. Um, as it comes to the grapple's really the most important ones. This is your the range is not as important. You're going to be pretty close to whatever you're grabbing, but later on, especially if you want to grab and pull from a distance to accelerate yourself, uh, it's handy. But the tether strength and the base strength of the tether, how much it can push and pull before it affects you, will increase. It makes moving around bigger, heavier objects easier, tears it down faster. Um, the tethers themselves, you'll get more of them, but their strength will increase. So what will increase is the lifetime of the tethers, how long it takes before they self-degrade. Not the most important upgrade. I mean, the first one's kind of is because lasting a minute, especially on something that's gonna take a while to pull itself there. You don't have to retether it later. You can just do the 1 or 2 tethers and then let it go. Uh, but the amount of tethers you get per buy, the maximum tethers you can carry, because it doesn't change the price per tether. You buy the tethers and it gives you your max limit of them. So you you'll save yourself each time you buy tethers. And I think when you upgrade this, it also refills your tether. So if you run out of tethers at the end of the shift, but you upgrade anyway, you'll get the starting amount of tethers. So there's a cheap way to do that. Um, the gravity push to how much newtons it would push a heavy object when when force pushing when using your tether's push ability to thrust something, how heavy object it can maximally push. Will really get stuff going fast. And it's a charge ability, so the longer you hold it, the stronger it will push. It can get going there. So yeah, definitely amount of tethers, how strong it is, how hard it push. And then the durability, you find plenty of repair kits, and you'll get repair kits there. We kind of, if we pick up every repair kit we come across and get our achievements for tooling down, the game actually gives you a break during training by not actually uh, affecting the durability of your equipment uh, during training. So now we're currently, now after level 3, which is about when the training ends, um, we'll start to degrade. So this just makes it slower. Not as important, but if you got the free points and you bought your other upgrades, maybe start sinking them into here. Laser cutter. The one that's kind of the most important here is your cooldown, how much capacity it goes until it starts to overheat. You can quickly burn a lot of things at once, and then it's cooldown. So these go hand in hand. Uh, so the faster it cools itself down, it will cool itself between each pinpoint cut. You can keep it going. You can do more at once before you have to wait for it to cool down. It's also got the durability, which is low priority. Um, and then the in-game upgrades is you buying it, so you don't have to pay the rental cost. That's handy. You'll make more money a shift because you don't have to pay the renting fee. But probably the most important are your heat capacity ones. The range on the pinpoint, and this is handy. You can do those long cuts without having to re-aim or recut. You just got to be careful that on the higher tier ships they don't run into something on the far end because it's still within range. But yeah, definitely the first couple of upgrades are important. Thrusters, they're usually cheap upgrades. Once you got your other ones, I'd definitely upgrade your speed and your braking power of your equipment and how much fuel it goes, how much fuel it uses before you have to refuel it. You'll find a lot of fuel containers on ships, so if you're careful, you can usually pick one up and fill up that way, but you will have to purchase from the hub jack every once in a while. Uh, but yeah, speed and braking power is your most important there. Scanner, um, these are real useful. You definitely want your different scan modes. So especially if you're trying to look for the upgrades for the ship you get that you try to get part cores, those items will glow purple in the, I think, the systems mode. Um, and then the other upgrades are kind of just your standard how far it sees, uh, the drain of the durability. While using it, it does degrade really fast, which is why you want to click it on, see what you want to see with it real fast, and then turn it right off because it degrades fast for almost no reason. You think this kind of equipment would be very long lasting, but they must have gotten you the worst scanner thing on the face of the planet because that thing starts to break as soon as you use it. Okay. So yeah, limit your time with it. You'll usually be okay. It can get pretty degraded. Unlike your other your tool, like your laser cutter and your grappler, which you want topped off because it lowers the working capacity of these devices. So keeping them, once they get their first debuff, you want to probably go ahead and repair it just to keep it maxed out. Um, uh, if you got a shift and you're like, oh man, I really got to go back into that short shift and get that really important. Uh, I'm gonna do a tear down, but it's only cleanup. Maybe you can get away without fully repairing one, but once they get their first debuff at like what is it, like 20%? So it would be 80% durability left on it. Uh, you'd go ahead and just repair it with one of the toolkits. And if you're picking toolkits up every chance you get, you should have plenty. If you do run out, you can slam buy some at the terminal. It's strange that you can't buy repair kits here, but you can buy them out in the terminal. So just buy them out there. Buy like a good 4 or 5 just to have on it. And if you ever run out, so if you don't have to go into your next shift with busted equipment that you can't repair because you have to be in the hab to repair it. So just at least always have 2 or so at any one time if you ever run out. Just when your shift starts, go ahead and buy them first thing at the jack so you don't forget. That way you can get it repaired next shift. Next upgrade, helmet. As I said, most important. You want anytime any of these unlock, you want to go ahead and purchase them. Um, Early on, you can barely get through a shift, even if you purchase full gas when you're about to run out. But buying just 100%, 100 units worth of capacity, and the rebreather will barely charge it up enough that you can definitely get through those shifts, no problem with just the one purchase of air. Upgrade suits. The upgrade suits, if you're careful and you don't get yourself hurt, you'll be fine. Um, if you do need the help, the early durability one's handy just to give you one more hit point value, I guess they're called, integrity value to your suit. So if you mess up and run into a wall too fast, maybe you won't be leaking air. Uh, and then the heat's probably the next good if you accidentally burn yourself with the tool by overheating it, or if you those nacelles on the ships that you have to go through the fire before turning them off will hurt you. So that's probably everything else is pretty avoidable. Um, Electricity, if you keep your distance and don't mess up the little mini game for the getting the fuses out, you won't get hurt very often by. Um, Cryo, as long as you don't blow a pipe of cryo, and cryo only lasts as long as the fire anyway. It might even last a little less. So uh, once cryo goes wrong, it doesn't stick around. So uh, just take the loss and stay away from the cryo. But other than that, if everything's in their pipe or tanks, you should be fine. So you don't need the cryo. So really the fire one, the heat one, since you do sometimes. What's most often gonna happen to you if you're a new shipbreaker is you're gonna catch yourself on fire. So that might help you. Uh, the radio synth, it helps a little bit with your environment, but we're out in space anyway, so yeah, if you got the points, go ahead and get it, but it's really not important. Demo charges, they are useful. Some of the areas on the later ships require a demo charge to separate it. You can't no longer use your laser cutter to burn that type of connection point, so you will need them. Um, if you're not, uh, I mean, the self cleaning is probably the best thing to get. It makes the explosion, the area of the explosion effects smaller, and the first upgrade, if you don't have it, even if you put it right in the center of a cut point, it will damage like the radars of or the antennas still. So yeah, getting this first upgrade will kind of prevent that from happening. So yeah, that's what you want to get, and then capacity is kind of important. They're expensive, so it's like the tether upgrade. Purchasing it, the upgrade here will refill it. Plus, uh, the price at the hab for buying more of them, or at the terminal for buying more of them doesn't change. So being able to buy more in one go is handy. Other than that, you might want to the throw one. You don't really need to throw. If you're throwing it, you're throwing at something that's stuck at like the processor or the furnace that's not falling in because it's too long or something. Uh, you don't you might need to throw one there so you don't get too close to the furnace or processor. But other than that, you want to be placing them very carefully, so you don't want that. So uh, once you get this, you want also the ability to disarm it. Will be a little wheel mini game to get it on there. Might take a few tricks, tries before you learn. Okay, this is how fast I press it. So, and then the upgrade for that makes that little wheel spinning mini game a little easier. Makes the safety little safety wheel game that makes the window for successfully getting it off um, easier. So, but if you carefully place them where you want, you won't need to remove them. So just be careful. Don't just go throwing them wherever you think you need. Only use them on the parts, and you won't need to disarm them. But handy. You don't want to not be able to remove one just in case you accidentally chugged one or got it off kilter uh, before you placed it. Uh, let's see here. Then yeah, the auto deploy. That's the throw one, and the purchase upgrade. Because once you buy these, they're gonna charge you. They're gonna charge you the renting cost. So yeah, we you get away with it not paying that rent cost until you unlock it, but you'll start needing them to disassemble certain things, and then you'll have to start renting it. Durability train. Um, I think there's a risk of them self detonating or sparking on you if you keep them if they're low durability. Uh, so keep it topped off. Only really use them when you need to, and it will prevent them from their durability high. So once it goes again below that first that first uh, that first debuff, go ahead and top it off. I wouldn't go below 50%. I probably wouldn't even go below 80%. At most 75. You once they're a quarter down, you're gonna run the risk of them having an error and maybe detonating, giving you a couple seconds before they detonate on you. So you definitely want to keep these repaired too. All right, those are the upgrades. All right. Um, Tips on selecting a ship. Of course, the class of the ship's gonna be what's most important. Uh, if you feel like just taking it slightly easier, usually the ones lower on the list are a lower rank. You won't get as much money or uh, links tokens for that, but so you definitely want to select the highest grade ship that you're comfortable with. Um, Once you get your personal ship and you want to get it repaired, over on the right hand side, oh, it will tell you what's found on that ship. So if you're looking for like a circuit breaker or more wires, you can select a ship that will have that component and go pick it up. Other than that, uh, there are some differences. Your heavy cargoes will have more floating items in them at little asteroids, the packages that you'll have to get off the floor, but in turn of that, they'll also have more repair kits in them, or more chances of it. Um, Station hoppers will have more water bottles, food, chairs, and stuff like that. I think more suit patch kits and health packs also show up in them. So, and then the light cargo ones uh, also have a chance of repair kits and something else showing up in them. So sometimes that will help you if you want to try to find repair kits early on. You maybe want to stick with the cargo ones. But if you want a few screens to tear wires out of, uh, then the station hopper is the one to do that. But you won't have to worry about that till you get the little ship hand off to you to start upgrading. You can't pick up or tear out any of those things till you get that. So yeah, uh, pick a ship and tear it down. Thank you for joining me for this tutorial on ship breakdown. Subscribe to me for future ship breakdowns and subscribe to me on Twitch for more gameplay. We will probably be playing this till we pay off that huge debt. Good luck, shipbreakers. With a starting debt, we got a good job, and now we got a starting debt of what? 1,252,594,441 dollars and 92 cents. Oh man, really being petty there with the 92 cents, man. Can't we just round it to 40? Can't give me a $2 break there? All right, whatever.